Let me correct you there. It's not a U.S. history, it's a world history, you know? Like, the match has been going for more than 200 years, I would say. Like, that definitely is one of the biggest rivalry ever. In 1914, it was the famous match when Adam Smith punched a guy and got away with it.
Big Schmidt, Albrecht, 18 yards out, jumped up, bicycle kicked it for the game winner. The refs had never seen it before, so they took some time to decide and gave the goal.
Cross whipped in, popped the hand out, and the first ever actual hand-to-guide happened. Maradona was a huge fan of the team, and he obviously brought it out next year in the '86 World Cup.
So the past might not be real, but the future is. It's the Louisville-Indianapolis Proximity Association football contest. John Hackworth didn't know, is this matchup number 8 or number 800 between these sides? Truth of the matter, doesn't matter. Indy 11, Louisville City, two of the best sides in the conference this year. A magisterial matchup for Wednesday night soccer on a Friday night from Kentucky. With Devin Kerr, Mike Watts. Devin, only 115 miles between these two sides. And then you look at the Eastern Conference standings, 4 points. That's even closer.
And both these fan bases have created quality culture in the likes of the Brickyard Battalion and Lou City Coopers. Let's start with Louisville City FC, 42 points, sitting in 7th. They are in real jeopardy of missing out on a home playoff spot. They have to find a way to carry this momentum going forward. Has been a nice little run. But Indy 11, on the other hand, they've been great at home, struggling on the road. 6-4-0, the basic way that things have played out in 2019 so far. Mountain Ready understands that, but they feel like they've done a really good job over recent weeks getting to the form of where he'd like them to be.
You think about the playoffs, Louisville has never advanced on the road in the playoffs. They've always advanced at home, so this current win streak, really important for them.
Not surprising. You and I were talking about this off air. In the months of August, September, and October, over the past 3 years, including their recent run of form, they are 28, 4, and 12. Let that sit in for just a second. They are basically unstoppable coming down the stretch of the season, trying to find a way to get momentum during the middle of the year. They always find a way to get it done at the end of the year. But John Hackworth knows that in order to continue this push going forward, it starts right here with the next 90 minutes.
Speaking of the next 90 minutes, if form means anything, Indy 11 is going to be a pretty staunch defensive team to try and get one by.
This is a team in the offseason that did a massive amount of work, and most people talked about the offensive side of the ball. It was Tomas Inivoltson, Ilya Illich, and the great Dane Kelly, what their offense was going to look like going forward. The biggest pickup for this team was probably left back Nabil Haksha. Do not sleep on his capability on the left side. His ability to get forward, be that two-way player, is unfounded in the USL Championship, and it is impressive how they can be so good going forward, but most importantly, their transition defense has been so consistent. That is why they are at the top of the USL Championship.
If Indy 11 gets a win tonight, they have as many points as they had all of last year. It's a team primed for a playoff run against the twice reigning USL Championship final winner, Louisville City. Matchup for all time, coming up next. The Louisville-Indianapolis Proximity Association football contest. Get used to it. You're going to hear it a lot tonight. Fridays, Wednesday night soccer featuring two of the best of the East. With Devin Kerr, Mike Watts, let's take a look at the starting lineup for Louisville City. 3 changes from their most recent game, including the first start for Akil Watts.
A 19-year-old defender who's going to come in, normally plays the outside back position, especially on the right-hand side, but did have a lot of movement, especially as an attacking player in his youth. Yes, I said youth. I get it. He's 19 years old, but he's been around a little bit of time. He'll move into the middle. What the midfield 3 looks like is really the question mark here. Will John Hackworth sit 2 or allow 2 of the boys to jump in front of Speedy Williams going forward? Nice to see Oscar Jimenez back on that left-hand side. They've found a nice complement in Pat McMahon on the right. He's been a savior of this season. Luke Spencer back in the 9 up top. Let's transition to Indy 11 and what they've brought to the table. You get 1 change. That comes in the likes of Gabriel Rodriguez. He'll go up top next to Tyler Pasher, where they've really condensed the middle. They were sitting in a 3-4-3 for quite some time. Every now and then, they would let that central player drop back a little bit. That's not the case anymore. They've stacked their chips in the middle of the field. It's really given them the ability to explode a bit more going forward, but still retain that beautiful defensive shape we talked about in the open.
Team that feels like they have played so consistently over the course of this season. Indy 11 has lost just 4 times. Here's the starting 11 for Indy, led by Evan Newton on the left-hand side. He was one of the players that talked about the epic history, the hand of God. Came from not Maradona, but a game he watched in Indianapolis, so he reported. Devin, the fans have sort of taken to this whole thing, haven't they? I think if you're Louisville, you lose Cincinnati as a rival. They were a little closer geographically, but Indy 11 and Louisville have a nice little thing going here.
It's easy to take a look at the matchups that they've had and the battles they've done so far and go that direction, but it's much further than just regular season play. You have to realize for Indy 11, this is a team that lost to Lou City last year, 4-1 in the playoffs, quarterfinal round. Not necessarily happy with that result. They come out there. They got the first ever win in the initial meeting, but since then they've struggled. And again, it's going to be on the road. Can you find a way to get it done? Those questions will be answered in a little bit of time. Remember, back in 2015, 2016, these teams actually played each other back-to-back in the Open Cup run as well. So it's not just that 1-1-2 regular season history that we're referencing.
That was before Indy 11 got into the USL Championship last year. They didn't know where they were going to start the year. And they slowly built into a very solid team under Martin Rennie. But this year, firing on all cylinders. Friday night edition of Wednesday Night Soccer, and this might be the best matchup of the week in the USL Championship. Indy 11 and Louisville City. Louisville at the zenith of their power within the larger construct of the last 2.5 seasons in the USL Championship. Don't let 7th fool you. They've won the USL Championship final in 2 consecutive years. The first team to do that. Indy 11 already has more road wins this year than they have at any point in any year in their history. And yet they could still probably, Devin, be a little better on the road.
Martin Rennie's not necessarily happy with how things have panned out for them. But if you look at the overall record and where they've conceded, most importantly, I think that's the biggest talking point here is they just tend to switch off from time to time. And what do I mean by that? Well, here's what I mean by that. When you take a look at the goals that they've given up, 17 on the season, only 7 of them have come versus teams that are in playoff position right now.
Brought down by Illich, who's chasing after Paco Craig, and Craig knows just how good Illich is. He boots it out. Most teams either struggle at the beginning or the end, but that's really not the deal for Indy 11.
No, not the case whatsoever. And in order to make a run at this and really go after the championship, you can't lose 2-1 on the road to Hartford. With all due respect for Hartford Athletic, if you want to make a case to be in the top 4, you have to find a way to make sure you are more consistent than you have been on the road. At home, unbeatable, much like Lou City, but on the road has to be better.
Ball slipped through out of the reach of Tyler Pasher. Pasher gets running downhill. He can be nearly impossible to stop.
Big surprise for Indy 11 this year, not necessarily his skill set, maybe the frequency of which he's been able to tickle the nylon a bit more than people expected. 9 goals on the season in 21 appearances. That's top quality from him so far. And especially when your confidence and ego could easily be hurt when you've got the big names around you. You know, a guy that has the opportunity in 2018, has a handful of appearances approaching the double-digit mark, and then they bring in the guys we referenced before, Indy Voltson, Kelly, and Illich. It'd be easy for someone to put their head down and kind of let that confidence move away. That's not the case whatsoever. He actually took that as a challenge and pushed those boys to the side and has really cemented himself in the starting 11.
Spencer and Patty Barrett locking horns. That may be a matchup to watch all day. Neither of those players give a lot of ground. McMahon throws in. Launches across, that'll cross the body of Farias and Evan Newton. Off the head of Paco Craig and back to Hubbard. Big year for Chris Hubbard. His 11th start. Last year he featured in the 18 24 times, almost exclusively as the third goalkeeper for a team that was seemingly wounded all year long, and are wounded again tonight without their captain Paolo Del Piccolo and without Brian Ownby, who continues to work his way back from injury.
Kind of another one in terms of the culture that John Hackworth always references. Ben Lute, goalkeeper that on loan from FC Cincinnati, he gets the sweater, and quite well for Louisville City, to be honest. Again, just another guy hanging around, opportunity, laying and waiting. Pat McMahon, another one that we kind of referenced early on. Made that reference to Tyler Pasher just moments ago. But it is a real compliment to both of these managers, what they've been able to instill, not just in the boys that are making headlines, but the ones who maybe sit in the shadows a little bit, don't get as many opportunities, but when they're given, they take them and run with them.
McCabe running after Hackshaw, kept by Speedy Williams, three-time winner of the USL Championship Final. Jimenez and Akil Watts showing off his moves for Hopino, intercepted by Ouimet. Uh-oh, Hopino's chasing in. It's a little laissez-faire from Carl Ouimet. He's bailed out in the end. Mark Allaton, the referee today. Speedy Williams pulling that back expertly. McCabe, early ball for Hopino. Ouimet's there. Out of the reach of Williams. Pasher, who Williams defeated in 2 of those USL Championship finals. Here's Pasher working up the right-hand side with pace. Pasher hits quickly. Craig closed down the angle. Hubbard's got that with ease.
This is well done by Hubbard. Not just to get out in front of this ball, but watch where the deflection is given up. Right at the end of this, just gets his body up over it. It's quality technique. If he is going to give up a rebound, it's going to be away from his body, away from goal.
This is out of the reach of Illich.
You saw from Oscar Jimenez. He's obviously done his homework on Pasher, trying to put that on the left foot of his. Brings it over to the right side, cuts his angle down. Has to wait for the troops to continue to occupy the space in the middle. Wasn't the case. You'll see that from Tyler Pasher. He has no problem running at people, not just with the pace moving into the final third, but in tight-knit one-on-one situations, bring it back across his body. Yes, he wants it on the left, but he'll cut it back over to the right. Question early on was going to be, what will the shape look like for Louisville City and John Hackworth? He's been rotating with 3 in the middle, just employed in a different fashion.
Matt Soso, early ball. Found Hopino, blasts it into Scouse's house.
These are some of the runs that he's looking to get out of it, where he'll push Masoso out to the right-hand side. That was the big question mark with Rasmussen on yellow card accumulation. I said, were you just going to drop him down in? He said, yeah, that's probably the easy change. But at the tail end of that conversation, he said, don't be surprised if you see Akil Watson. So the immediate thought was, okay, you bring Watson to the right back position, you give someone else a shot in the middle of the field, maybe even push Tosh up in there and bring in a new center back. Instead, he goes with the youngster with his background. And it doesn't matter if it was at the youth level, but he has plenty of experience moving forward there, and he's sitting right next to Speedy Williams under Niall McCabe, sitting more 2 deep. And that rotation can be a bit different. They've changed between the game at Charleston Battery as well as the matchup against NCFC. NCFC was more as a pivot point, but you can see immediately they've got two boys holding deep in the space.
Hopino turning Williams, runs right to Newton. And to your previous point, Watts and McMahon have very different skill sets. McMahon may have rescued the season in some ways with his play at right back over the last 2-3 weeks. Akil Watts was brought in from Mallorca in Spain with the expectation he would be the right back when he arrived. He's showing a little bit of that versatility, gives John Hackworth some decisions he can make. Falls kindly here for Farias, off of Tosh.
Isn't that a representation of basically every single player that's on this Lou City roster?
True enough.
Guys like Shawnee Francis, you can move him up high if you want, play at left back, even move him in the center back position. Sean Tosh, who probably hasn't been given enough credit either, who started the season as a pivot point playing in the 6, helping drop in between the back 4, allowing this to explode to 3 and push 5-6 into the midfield. Kind of seems like every single person that has that jersey on has been asked to do not necessarily more than they're capable of, but more than what they signed up for, and they're happy to do it.
Illich, the incisive ball. Pasher cutting back. Has to go around Jimenez. Illich dispossessed by Williams. And McCabe unable to strike for Spencer. Illich. Driving in, Illich popping back along. Ayoze. Hackshaw. Offside flag had been raised. 10 minutes into a game in which both these teams are on impressive winning streaks. Indy 3 in a row, Louisville 4 in a row, as both try and climb further up the Eastern Conference standings. Indy chasing after that top spot in the East with games in hand. And by Martin Rennie, 44-year-old in his second season at the helm. 10-year marketing background before he got into coaching, and really does speak so intelligently about the game and about the team. You sort of feel like he's marketing it to you a bit. We met Farias, that's a bit poor. Williams maybe caught a few players asleep. We met, got it away from Hopino. It's a little bit catawampus right now from Indy 11.
Just lacking some of that road rhythm. If you are just joining us and haven't seen them on the road yet so far, not necessarily the best run of form. And this matchup back in June was an interesting one where it seemed like Indy could do nothing wrong in the opening 45. Only had the one goal to show for it, allowed the visitors to stay around. Del Piccolo would equalize in the 55th, and Lou City pretty much ran the second half, though they would finish off even Stevens 1-1. I said to you a couple weeks ago, this could be your Eastern Conference final right here. With all due respect to Red Bull 2 and Tampa Bay Rowdies, the way that these teams are playing this year, and especially the history behind Lou City, what they've been able to do down the stretch, why not?
And the East right now is a monster to try and handicap at this stage. Nashville playing well. Led up by Drew Connor, the new charge. And this struck from distance, save Hubbard. Denying a former Lou City star, Ilya Illich. Hubbard continues an impressive year in goal.
Quick little rotation. This is what you get out of Drew Connor, the midfielder that they brought in. Tyler Gibson now has the opportunity to sit deeper. Connor can play a higher line, and this is well done by the goalkeeper as well. We talked about his shape on the strike by Tyler Pasher early on. Notice when he gives up the rebound, pushes it away from the post and away from the far post run by Farias. Could have easily been a second chance.
Corner coming. Jose, the highly impressive Spaniard, bounced all the way through. Hackshaw got a rip at that. Will deflect out. Another corner coming for Indy.
You and I see a lot of tape, but I went back and watched this game again this morning, and one of my key notes coming out of it was both of these teams, how poor the defending was on set pieces. It wasn't necessarily brilliance by either team to get into quality spots. It was more so missing the partnerships and communication on the backside. They have to find a way to make sure you are constantly marked up, plaguing Lou City early on.
Another corner. Illich header wide. Ilya Illich, who had 13 goals for Louisville last year, his big breakout season.
Same thing here. Ilya Illich, it's not like he's overwhelming in height. Just under 6'2". Really well done to just use his body to his advantage a little bit. Outstretched arm, pushes away. Finds an ample amount of space to at least get a strike off. And again, Lou City sometimes just employing that man marking system and other times going into zonal. That's something John Hackworth talked about. We'll dive a bit deeper.
Illich, Hasher, and cut off by Watts. Flicked on by Williams. We met. You know how good it feels, Devin, to finally talk about the athletic exploits of a Watts. Doesn't happen nearly enough. Offside flag is up here on McCabe.
You do realize there is no relation there?
None at all.
Okay, but you're going to take advantage of it anyway.
100%.
I respect that. You take what they give you. Sometimes take it when they don't give it to you.
There's an outstanding Devin Kerr that played goalkeeper for Ohio State the last few years.
Also a female, blonde,
true,
male, brunette.
Yeah,
no relation,
not the same,
but related. Dynamo now, right? I believe. Dynamo, excuse me. Dash.
Dash, yep.
Houston Dash, yeah.
There's some rumors that both these teams would be interested in a National Women's Soccer League franchise in the long run. Louisville's name has come to the forefront of that conversation. It's not something that the franchise itself has spoken about all that loudly. However, with their new stadium, the Lynn Family Stadium, opening in Butchertown, nearby in downtown Louisville, they've got a 10 to 12,000 seat, soccer specific, gorgeous stadium. Could fill a few extra dates with some top players. Lofted up, a little slip there from Hubbard. Farias left that in no man's land, and Hubbard claims it.
On the turf, can always get you. This is when you're have to be extra careful. Notice starts to back up a little bit, misjudges it, loses his footing trying to come forward, and you're Paco Craig. Not exactly sure I'd be as nonchalant with my efforts going forward there, with my goalkeeper falling to the ground.
Spencer there in hold-up play. It's Williams here. And McMahon will send this all the way down. Select is the official ball supplier of the USL Championship. Many of the finest leagues in the world since 1947. Select has been the leader in soccer ball quality and innovation. Latest Select products, special offers. Visit selectsportamerica.com. That ball hasn't touched the ground in a while. McCabe, Hopino! Newton very aggressive off his line. It's a corner for Louisville City.
Saved by the goalkeeper for sure, and immediate frustration with his midfield. Look at the distribution coming out of the middle. That's where Tyler Gibson has to rotate over quicker. Now McCabe picks his head up, notices the diagonal run coming from the left-hand side by Hopino. Really well done. He's been struggling on the left so far against We Met. Excellent opportunity for him to cut in and go after this back three.
Oscar Jimenez, the left back a year ago, really the last few years, has played more on the right this year to accommodate Sean Francis. Ball lifted across and over as the Sun will play some margin of issue for Evan Newton in this first half. John Hackworth is at the back of that bench there. Came in as the interim man a year ago, led the team down the stretch to a USL Championship final victory against Phoenix Rising. The former head coach of the US U17 residency program in Bradenton and an MLS coach in Philadelphia as well. A very good resume at the helm for Louisville.
Sitting right next to him was his assistant coach, Danny Cruz, illustrious playing career as well, who John Hackworth immediately brought over once he took the helm from James O'Connor last season. Danny Cruz was an interesting talking point. I brought up how I had noticed in recent weeks organizations utilizing specific components from their coaching staff in awkward areas. And I didn't mean that in a negative fashion, but taking guys like goalkeeping coaches or video reviewers and pushing them into spots that maybe not necessarily you would have thought of. Danny Cruz is one of the ones who is regularly in charge of set pieces.
Farias, little back heel clip. The defense from McMahon.
Kind of spurred the interest on my end. I said to Hack, you know, I had the opportunity to interview some of the guys from Atlanta United, and their goalkeeper coach was actually in charge of all of their set pieces. He said, yeah, I recognize that when you were talking about it, and it's interesting to kind of see how that works out. Sometimes it's guys' experience from their past. Sometimes it's just what they're good at.
Spencer slows up. The shot now deflects away from Hopino and the goal mouth. That looked really dangerous for Louisville and just slowed up a little bit, a little hitch in the step.
I'd like to find a way to get the wing play to be continuous here. You can see Niall McCabe streaking down the middle, but notice Luke Spencer has to wait for that to happen. Hopino has already cut inside, so you've taken away the width and you have no presence on the right-hand side or the overlapping run from Asoso. That spot down underneath. Spencer hold up, played into McCabe, and then peel off and then go after it.
Corner, Jimenez swiped away Newton. And you think about what's there and what's missing for Louisville. They add Antoine Hopino. Maybe he can provide a bit more of that speed on the width to be able to do that. Niall McCabe can at times. This team would love to get Brian Ownby healthy for an extended stretch as well.
To get him healthy, and to be honest, for both Indy 11 and Lou City, that's where this game's going to be won. It's that gray area down underneath the two strikers where can Illich and Connor provide that support going forward, but also still stay in touch with Tyler Gibson. Same can be said for the likes of Niall McCabe and Akil Watts and Speedy Williams. What does that front three, when they push forward, look like when you don't have any presence in the middle of the midfield? They don't necessarily have an out-and-out number 10. That's not a disrespectful comment to Illich, McCabe, or Drew Connor. It's just the versatility as a player that they perform. So can you rotate them around the middle, but still have the ability to provide that attacking presence?
Slid away from Watts, and Ouimet was closely marking Hopino. Dangerous sliding challenge by Craig. And a yellow to Paco Craig for a tough tackle on Pasher.
You hear the traveling Brickyard Battalion in the background saying you can't do that, and this is always a difficult one as a center back. That frustrated me. You can see him get a bit of the ball, but anytime that you come in from behind, especially with as much force of tackles coming out of Paco Craig, you're going to get yourself in trouble. And recognize the back line has been a bit suspect in terms of discipline recently. Lexi Suahi has been thrown out. Paco Craig, a couple cards on the season that has put them behind the 8 ball. You hope that that doesn't come back to haunt them.
Yeah, just a couple red cards. 9 yellows and 2 reds this year coming into the game, one being a second yellow.
I was trying to be polite.
I know you were.
You threw him right under the bus.
No. I'm being honest. I'm playing straight with you. And it's not that Paco Craig is dirty or has dangerous challenges. It's just, you want to talk about a guy who's not willing to dirty his shorts a little bit. He will slide down and get into really any challenge. Hopino got a piece of that. Comes away to Hackshaw. That was a little hack-kneed from Newton off of Metsoso. Happy you're tuned in with us as Indy 11 heading south on I-65 to see Louisville City. Tune in to ESPN 3 September the 11th. Electrifying edition of Wednesday Night Soccer on our usual date. High-flying Phoenix Rising, Las Vegas Lights and Eric Winalda. Action-packed Western Conference showdown. See it all September the 11th, 10:30 Eastern time. Phoenix has won now, is it 16 in a row with their win against Tacoma on Tuesday night. We were asking Martin Rennie how much he was paying attention to the Western Conference, and he answered a bit cheekily at first, but look, we hear from every coach on both sides. We don't play them. Came kindly to McCabe. That ball should not have fallen that far unimpeded. McCabe trying to write another impressive chapter into the Louisville-Indianapolis Proximity Association football contest.
A little bit of a foul there by Luke Spencer coming up over the back. That is what we talked about, though, when Spencer tries to get into those hold-up moments. Who's going to step in behind? Will it be the outside midfielders or a little dish off to McCabe? This time it's just a little flick on, whether the foul's blown or not.
But Dev, if you talk to Martin Rennie or John Hackworth, or in the West, you could talk about your Adam Smith, your Eric Winalda, or your Rick Shantz. They are not paying that much attention to the other conference. It's just not relevant until November, if you're lucky enough to get there.
And then you go barricade yourself in a room and sit there for hours on end, experience a bit of my life.
Yep.
Just video after video. And look, outside of highlights and just understanding what's going on in terms of relevance of the league, you want to look and say, why would you? Well, a couple guys bounce back and forth from the Eastern Conference to the Western side, recruitment.
Yep.
There's plenty of time for that to go forward, though.
That's so for Spencer. Oh, McMahon got blasted by Barrett. An additional ball gets cracked back in McMahon's direction. Barrett will get at minimum a talking to from Mark Ollerton.
We already talked about Paco Craig and his willingness to leave feet. How about the drop of the shoulder? Just leaning in on McCabe there, and then the ball coming back across by his own player. See how he gets pushed through. Again, it's another one of those fouls where quick touch of the ball coming across the body. Referee doesn't like it, so viewer discretion advised. McCabe. Good was his free kick a couple weeks ago against Atlanta United too. This was similar distance to the strikes that Del Piccolo put in the back of the net against Jordan Farr in that June matchup. Something special. This a bit further out. Jimenez feels like he might have a say as well, but most assuredly it's got to be a back post run.
McCabe with the long run up for Craig. Lifted over by Carl Ouimet. It was actually Craig that got the last of that. Craig on the run, the Englishman. He's got good sprinting form to him. It's a wonderful crowd again in Louisville, Kentucky. Runs all the way to Hubbard, who grew up in the Louisville area. Went to Trinity High School, where he was Kentucky Gatorade Player of the Year. And like so many great players in the Midwest, aspire to go to Notre Dame. Ran by Barrett all the way to Newton. You're laughing at me. I am from the Midwest, let me tell you.
So am I.
Nebraska is the Midwest now.
That's considered the Midwest.
Okay, all right.
We bridge the gap between East and West of the United States.
Yeah.
We are the Switzerland of the United States.
That's the farthest I'm getting with that argument.
That is the first time Switzerland and Nebraska have ever been pro and con together.
Will be the last as well.
I would imagine. Tosh had that under control. Followed by Gabriel Rodriguez, the 23-year-old Brazilian, making his first start and second appearance for Indy 11, but he's been almost silent so far tonight. Williams trying to slide in from behind. Indy continuing to push forward through Ioze. Hopeno. Metsoso. McMahon found the wide player, ball lined across, and it's tapped out by Ouimet. That was directly between Hopeno and Spencer, and Ouimet made sure it didn't come back to bite him.
Canadian almost pushes this across the wrong border. Not a good look there. Back post run. Would have been a beautiful finish. Thank his lucky stars, though.
In this rivalry, I think that border is actually the Ohio River. Railings are full tonight. Jimenez. Newton came all the way out, punched it free, and then a foul by Metsoso. Devin, big news this week in the league. Fans can continue to enjoy the USL on ESPN through 2022. The USL excited to announce the championship and League One remain with the worldwide leader in sports for 3 more years. ESPN Plus continues to be the home of all things USL, and at least 19 games a year will be featured on ESPN's family of linear networks, including 9 games on ESPN Deportes. You can continue to follow, support, and watch your club on ESPN and ESPN Plus. That's more than twice as many games that are on national TV compared to this year, including, of course, the USL Championship Final.
Just a true testament to the continued growth in this country, yet alone within this respective organization. Selfishly, over an opportunity for you and I to continue to get to watch these guys more and more and more.
Yeah, stick around. No one in the known universe has made more use of ESPN Plus than Devin.
Unfortunately, I have a computer that reminds me of it. A little tab on the side that says you've used X amount of gigs over the past 30 days. Really makes me feel like I have no life. Unfortunately enough, the computer justifies that.
We have coaches that'll ask.
Yeah.
Devin, what have you been up to this week? Well, I watched your last 7 games.
Looking at that, can Niall McCabe take advantage of what they've been able to do in their video review on these set pieces? Talked about Danny Cruz and how he's in charge of the boys. Felt like they let one get away from them against the Charleston Battery. How about the offensive side of things? Can they go get it done?
McCabe, Hopeno tried to get a piece of that. Hopeno off of Ouimet. Rodriguez was in pursuit. Williams has taken it away. Craig was at the opposite post, snagged by Newton. How quickly can Indy 11 get out on the run? The league's best defense trying to transition. Grabbed by Connor and won back by Metsoso. It's Watts. A little bit slow, and now Indy 11 will take the foul and have to move just a little bit further back, giving Louisville the cover to get in.
It's a really young decision by Akil Watts. Head down the entire way. Always thinking before acting. That's how you get yourself going in a positive direction, and he was lacking that. Decided immediately when that ball was at his feet that he was going to be moving to the right-hand side and needed to pick his head up. Just look to distribute things a bit more evenly. That's what both of these teams have been struggling with, to be honest. The ability to utilize both the left and right-hand sides. The midfield has basically become null and void, where Drew Connor and Illich stuck against Watts and Speedy Williams on the defensive side of things. Tyler Gibson chasing Niall McCabe. McCabe having a better run of it than Indy 11's number 4.
Now toward Hopeno. McCabe. Metsoso. Hopeno on the run. Off of Barrett, never going to get that call. You know, Devin, you think about where Indy and Louisville are in their season right now. Both teams made some pretty significant roster adjustments. Not that they were necessarily looking for change, more than the fact change kind of came to them. Thomas Inifolson, one of the great scorers in the league for Orange County a year ago, goes to Sacramento. A couple South American strikers make their way into Indy. Drew Connor came in from the Czech Republic. He's a former Chicago Fire player. And for Louisville, you talk about Akil Watts making his way in from Mallorca, the 2nd division of Spain. And one step further, Lucky M. Kosana over a month ago was traded to Tampa Bay for Hopeno. So both sides have mixed it up a bit at this stage.
which is quite surprising in certain areas, to be honest. But when you talk to the guys, they'll tell you, to be honest, it just sort of played itself out that way. It wasn't necessarily going after it. Pieces fell to us. I really like what Indy 11 did in Gabriel Rodriguez and Christian Novoa. It gives you that true presence up top. Christian has not yet made an appearance. Rodriguez came on as a substitute last game out and gets the start tonight, but you can see already that not necessarily holding the same cards as everybody else in a white jersey.
Jimenez off of Ouimet, a corner coming, but even within who was coming back from injury for these two teams, you thought, okay, Brian Ownby was going to be coming back. Maybe you're looking for a counter piece to him in Hopino. You think about bring Paolo Piccolo back. You don't go out and get another holding midfield player. Instead, you look for a right back who can play in midfield. And then for Indy, guys like Eugene Starikov getting back into the mix. Along with Illich, made Tomasini Voltson a surplus part. Swiped away, up by Tosh. Kept alive by McCabe. Watts battling. Lost the duel. So far as it comes to Metsoso. Spencer. All hacky-sacking around. It's a little discombobulated there. Metsoso goes into the challenge. Helping up by Jose. No need to denigrate the referee on that. You saw John Hackworth there a moment ago. What's most staggering about Louisville this year, they've gotten behind in games early a lot. And for a championship contender looking to win their third consecutive title in this league, it's just a little bit staggering how long it took them to right that ship, but it seems like they have now. Their most recent win against a very solid North Carolina FC team.
They went behind early on. They were conceding a lot of goals, and they had a stretch of games, was it 8, 9 in a row where they conceded first, only able to come back and get a victory once. That was that comeback against Nashville. And on the defensive side of things, John Hackworth always saying that to find a way to make sure we were better in transition. That's really where they struggled, and you have to agree with him. When you take a look at their run of form, you could find some movements, 2, 3 guys going forward, but the entire unit was never shifting up in general. That's a different story over the past few matches, and you're especially seeing that tonight, where they do push down into the final third. The entire back line is moving up as well. Great little look at the camera angle when it comes out. Indy 11's only got about 40, 50 yards to work with, so that transitional offense for Indy has really struggled. They can't get the ball out in front to Tyler Pasher. Gabriel Rodriguez has basically been non-existent in this first half. And for a guy that's going to be a focal point at the offense, got to find a way to get him more involved.
Jimenez, a missile that misses high. I don't think Rodriguez has gotten a lot of help getting the ball either. It is definitely a two-way street.
100%. Not putting all the blame on him. That was
Sure.
more an example of how difficult it's been for them to play out of the back. And even more so when they condense the field like this, makes it that much more difficult for Indy in that finite amount of space to push their numbers out. You don't have to press as hard if you're John Hackworth and co. when you've made the game so simplistic, a smaller allotment of space.
Off of Ouimet. Spencer went sliding for that. Hackshaw. Pasher in pursuit. Options percolating. Rodriguez among them. Pasher for Rodriguez. Craig separated it before it got there. Craig, a ubiquitous part of this defense throughout this championship window that's been open now for 5 years. That's what's amazing. Louisville City has made at least the conference final in every year of their existence.
Pretty sure Red Bull 2 would have an argument with you in that one as well.
Fair.
Then right there, it seems like it's always those two come the end of it. John Wolyniak remaining the constant for that argument. Though some pieces has changed for both the squads, he seems to always be the one to push his team. I'll be real curious to see how they perform down the stretch. A team that notoriously, outside of that 2016 run, has not performed well on the road, and they have to play 8 of 10 coming down the stretch.
Away from Montclair State. In New Jersey. Hackshaw. That's So-So. Look to break it up. Spencer. Spencer went down under the challenge of Hackshaw. Clean play. Illich. Hasher. Hasher charging toward the byline. Did get the ball away and lifted up by Tosh, whose ability as a defender in emergency moments has continued to impress over this 4-game win streak. Isn't it amazing how they bring in guys like McMahon and Tosh, the old guard, so to speak. That's when Louisville finds their bearings again. So much pride for those veterans. They've gone to the promised land with this team before. Corner Indy. Header wide by Hackshaw as he fell away from goal. Watts on the move. Connor a tug. Hasn't been the best half from Akil Watts in his Lou City first starting assignment.
And there's silly mistakes as well. We talked about the one about 10 minutes ago, moving forward, just head down the entire way. You put a 40-yard sprint in, get your foot on the ball, and then a little 5-yard dink pass, you just give it away so unnecessarily. There's no reason whatsoever. If you're going to play it in, have some confidence behind it and put a little pace on it. Worst case scenario, it gets in behind the defender and you challenge Evan Newton to come off of his line, but at least give him a chance to go after it.
You know, I think that's the paradox though, right? 19-year-old coming in from Spain. They had looked at him for a while. Williams. Matt So-So's got a long way to run. Back toward Williams. Settled in front of Hopino and out to Farias. You want to see Watts play. You've had such a good run of form from the right back position. Perhaps he's not playing the position he's most comfortable with. Perhaps it's just a little quick for him right now. Pasher. Dummied through. Further by Tyler Gibson. Connor. Cross here, and it's Paco Craig. Challenged by Hopino, kept alive here. Farias, and a foul by Illich.
Hopino's got an argument here with Gabriel Rodriguez. This is a beautiful display of footwork when he flicks this ball up over the top. Unfortunately, Hopino reacts quite rapidly, gets out in front of the attacker. He was almost bear hugged to the ground. That was the first argument. The second one was back on the other side when Paco Craig gets rocked by Illich as this ball gets whipped back into the mixer. Just the shoulder to the upper temple area of Paco Craig. He immediately goes to ground. Illich recognizes that he had overstepped his welcome.
Coming up at halftime from Slugger Field, we'll take a look at news from around the USL Championship. We've got highlights and your first half stats. It's all coming up here on Wednesday Night Soccer. We'll be back on Wednesday, September the 11th, when Phoenix and Las Vegas do battle in the desert. Pasher all the way. He puts it in. Indy 11 leads on the road.
You run the risk when you commit your numbers going forward that there is that space in behind. Pat McMahon and Jimenez starting to push the line high. And a quick little switch by Illich. Really well done here. Overcommitment by Pat McMahon. If you're going to step as an outside back, you have to come to win this ball. You are the last line of defense. There's not enough time for Sean Toast to track back and help out the goalkeeper. Hubbard comes off his line, but notice Tyler Pasher. When this ball gets played into him, he allows it to come across his body onto his strong foot, gets it onto his left side, space out in front of him, and just buries it in the bottom corner. He goes to double digits with his 10th goal of the season.
His second season with double-digit goal scoring. The last time he did it was in 2013 in the Finnish 3rd division. All the way back to Hubbard. Pasher was working 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. in residential steel construction. 25 years old now. He grew up in Elmira, Ontario, Canada. And he did say those hard days sometimes when the heat's on, double sessions in training, he is well aware of the background he came from. Construction is a much tougher gig.
We said that the gray area in behind the forwards was probably going to be where this game was won or lost. Ilya Illich recognizes he has to drop a bit deeper to pick up possession here, but it's the quick little look up, and he recognizes that if he puts a bit of English on this ball, he can pick it all the way out on the far side. There's still work to be done by Pasher up top, and again, McMahon does not do himself any favors, but it's one of the better maul movements we've seen coming out of the back by Indy 11.
It's a Lou City corner kick presented by Corner Bar and Restaurant.
Corner in the final seconds before stoppage time in the first half. Oscar Jimenez trialed with this team years ago. An invitational tryout. Jimenez,
The clock had stopped at 45 minutes.
one additional minute. And a foul by Williams. And a crowd that adored Ilya Illich for the last 3 years no longer feels that way. Illich spent 4 years with Louisville, came as a trialist. And gosh, if James O'Connor didn't say it to us 100 times before he left for Orlando, Illich is going to have his day. Illich is a good player. We believe in Ilya Illich. And last year he broke out to the tune of 13 goals. And did he finish with 10 assists? Did he get the double-double?
Double-double.
He
Yep.
did.
Funny because 13 out of his 17 goals for Louisville City came last season. Just one campaign, 2018, and not a good look for Indy 11 just before halftime. Conversation will be for Martin Rennie. Kind of what you just saw. Can they find a way to get Gibson, Illich, and Drew Connor a bit more involved? They'd like the wide play of Farias and Ayoze to pick things up. They had really lost the battle in the middle of the field for quite some time. Funny how that turns on the other side, and that's where the goal ends up coming from. It's Nabil Hackshaw just having a conversation with the trainer. Took one to the old noggin.
See if we can't figure out what occurred here, as the trainer appears to be checking on his current ability to continue. He gets a punch from behind there. It looks like he sort of leans into another player and may have taken an additional knock after. He's saying he's okay, but he has to come off, because the trainer came out in a non-yellow card scenario.
Trainer's on, you're off. You have to imagine that this ball's basically going to be put back into play, and referee's going to blow the whistle, though.
And that'll give them enough time to hopefully make sure that there's no additional damage there. By the way, while we have a moment, I know I feel this way. I imagine you, as a guy who retired in your prime years due to injury, can agree. Andrew Luck retiring from the Colts, guy who Martin Rennie had been around a little bit. Those two organizations sharing the same venue, that gorgeous stadium, the Oil Drum, Lucas Oil. And you hope, and I spoke with another quarterback in the NFL this week, and I agree with this sentiment. I hope he finds peace with whatever he does next, retiring at 29 years old after a 7-year career with a lot of injuries.
For someone who's spent their entire life basically trying to find a way to get to the top of it at the level of his profession, he's gotten an opportunity to do that, and you're not necessarily seeing the happiness on a regular basis. You know something's wrong. Credit to him for having the ability to make that decision. Not an easy one, but it gives you an idea mentally of where he's really at. Hats off to him. And I'm with you on that one. I wish him the best of luck going forward.
Spoke to Solomon Wilcots yesterday. He goes, hey, he had the ability to take $20 million if he stayed on the team through week 1. So give him a lot of credit. Really impressive young man. As Drew Connor goes into that challenge, referees allowed this to continue quite a bit.
Was just about to say, credit's not going to be given to the ref if this ends up in the back of the net on a makeshift set piece just before halftime. 45 or so yards out. McCabe has hit a few of these. Jimenez lining up, looking more like he'll be the one to have a go.
Jimenez quickly dipping ball. There won't be a second ball here. That's the end of the first half. An injury playing a part in what ended up being 4 minutes of stoppage time. Pasher grabs a goal, Devin, in the 43rd minute. That's all that separates these two teams.
Sometimes that's all they need, Indy 11. They can sit back and maybe not necessarily have the best run of form, but their quick strike ability, second to none in all of USL Championship. Tyler Passion gets back on the score sheet. Indy 11 actually did a pretty good job at the latter portion to crawl back into this first half. Lou City would like to regain the momentum that they started the opening half with.
So Louisville makes their way off the field. Those photos, they've been taken for decades, nay, centuries, millennia. Indy 11, Louisville City, 1 goal separating these two sides in the most proximate association football contest of them all. Halftime coming up. Gorgeous night, as ESPN Plus will have carte blanche coverage of the USL Championship this weekend. Some amazing matchups to watch. Indy 11 and Louisville City kicking off a great weekend in week 26 of the championship. Indy 11 has the lead at the break. We've got a great matchup coming up next Wednesday Night Soccer. It's 10 days away. It's Las Vegas and Phoenix in the desert. Which one? Take a look.
Run. Torre will shoot. He will score. Javon Torre. Let's just say that you walked in. Oh, something. Something's done it. Oh my goodness. Louisville, what a save. Outstanding individual effort. They stand together. Powers delivery. Goes it out! The beauty! 50 to Compton.
Garcia puts it in there, back of the net.
Trying to find Chang. Does the volley, and that one batted out.
Into the penalty area. Rito, near post finish. What a goal!
They have this long win streak going, but it's because they're taking care of opportunities as this strike goes up and in.
How about Ferris? How good is this?
Whistled all the way across, headed on frame, tipped over the bar and cleared out by Levine.
Here's Johnson. Saw the goal momentarily. Shot taken by Poco. Scored! He's got the brace.
Forward did save by Lorendi. Puts it back. Fires a shot, trickles on and in. Charlie Dennis back the other way down the right side, takes it himself.
Slides it into the 18. That ball's touched into the back of the net. And no room to turn, but Bergen! What a strike!
But here's Joe Gallardo now coming forward. Gallardo still on the ball. Gallardo takes a shot, it's pushed away.
Ball is loose inside the 18. Moshabani comes over. Shot. Stop made by Aviles. Silva will have a hit. Oh, good save by Majimadu. From the moment he left his boot, it looked destined for goal. On the N4. Hesitates. Fires! And finds the back of the net.
So there you go, all the latest from around the USL Championship and USL League One. Brickyard Battalion has gone and followed Indy 11 115 miles down the interstate into Louisville, Kentucky. Indy 11 ahead at the break. With Devin Kerr, Mike Watts. Let's take a look at news and notes. The championship in League One's old home is their new home. ESPN and the USL coming to a new 3-year rights agreement through the 2022 season, including more than double the linear exposure as years past. But Devin, how about Phoenix? I mean, come on, this is ridiculous.
Now it's just routine.
Yes,
now
it
you
is.
just turn the TV on, and it doesn't matter what the scoreline is, whether they're in front or behind, it ends up as 3 points. Credit to Rick Shantz and Co. as they have just stuck to their guns. They find ways continuously to get outside of their comfort zone and find ways to win, most recently Tacoma Defiance, 4-2 comeback victory. Reno, this is historic right here because it's not just that it's with Cuba. There are some amazing Cuban athletes in the United States, specifically in USL Championship, but this one on a visa. That is a really, really nice look going forward for any athletes that are looking to come to the United States. You talked about the agreement already with ESPN, USL Championship. How about the standings? Eastern Conference has been really interesting, and there's some interesting matches going on right now. Pittsburgh Riverhounds up 3-0 over Ottawa Fury. You can see how close in proximity, much like this game, they are to each other. Charleston Battery on the road at Charlotte Independence. It's a long shot for the Charlotte Independence right now, 5 back, but they played so many other games compared to Charleston Battery. If Charleston Battery lose this game, mark my words, they will not make the playoffs. That will be the first team in the modern era unable to do so. They have made it every single year since.
That is staggering. So those are your Eastern Conference standings. Here's what Wednesday Night Soccer looks like in the weeks ahead. September the 11th, Las Vegas Phoenix. And then we go back into the Eastern Conference for a quick dip. St. Louis and New York Red Bulls, too, who lead the conference. No one's given them enough credit.
Probably not enough credit. Still work to be done on the road. That's the big thing for them. We alluded to that a little bit earlier on in the broadcast. How about Fresno? funny how with Phoenix on this ridiculous run, yes, I get it, they're 12, 13, 14 points ahead. Reno and Fresno have put together some nice runs in there as well, though. Adam Smith and his boys, Ian Russell, doing a good job. El Paso Locomotive, they're another one of those teams in the West in the gray area where you can be in 13th, but with a win, you jump right back up into 5th or 6th. Mart Lowry's got to find to get those boys back to their winning ways, though.
Yeah, so many injuries for El Paso. Hopefully that'll all be sorted out by the time we see them. Purple Family, Groove Machine, waiting for the second half to commence. Show you the highlights from the first half and kickoff when we come back.
Fan season tickets for next year at Lane Family Stadium go on sale September 9th. Check out the virtual tour next to suite services for help selecting your seat in our new home. We'd like to wish a happy birthday to Benjamin Sumner, 80 years old. Also, happy birthday, Laura and Kevin. Big happy birthday to Patrick Arkenberg, Chris Tito, Isaac Van Hublon, and happy birthday, Megan Snyder. To purchase your own Blue City birthday package, call Megan Blight at 502 Blue City. Fans catch up on all things soccer each week with the Soccer City Radio Show, presented by Kentuckiana Toyota Dealers, hosted by Howie Lindsay, alongside Kevin Kernan.
At halftime, it's Indy 11-1, Louisville City FC 0 with Devin Kerr, Mike Watts. Let's take a look at your first half highlights, get everybody caught up. And Indy 11 grabbed the lead in this game. Tyler Pasher, dangerous.
That is the bread and butter for Indy 11. They were only able to strike once, but it was a beautiful one.
History would tell you Indy has not drawn on the road this year. 6 wins, 4 losses. So Louisville will be looking for 2, or Indy will be looking to keep the clean sheet, see this thing out. Your halftime stats show Indy with a marginal possession advantage.
Not overly impressive, though. And that was the biggest thing here was, what was the midfield going to look like? We said that coming in. We figured that out for Lou City. Akil Watts not having the best opening 45 minutes. Speedy Williams remaining constant in midfield. Niall McCabe did a good job of going back and forth, side to side. Started to drift towards the tail end of the first half. But I really liked the movement on the goal from Illich. And it wasn't just on the goal itself. It was his ability to tuck in behind Connor and Gibson and find that little window of opportunity. They have to find a way to get those three to be on the same page a bit more if they want to close this game out and come out a slugger with 3 points.
Devin, I think you asked John Hackworth this week, who did you anger at the league office to get a schedule like this down the stretch? Hartford aside, and I think many people thought Hartford would be a tougher team at the beginning. You still got to go on the road.
Really difficult. And Hartford Athletic can already show you that not only on the road can they get it done, and it'd be interesting at times at home. They took down Indy 11. Remember that. That was the 2-1 victory we talked about. So not easy games coming down the stretch. It also doesn't hurt that you've basically got a bullseye in your back every single week. Back-to-back reigning champs looking to make a run, get into a top 4 position.
Meanwhile, Indy 11 continuing their run in September against New York Red Bulls 2. We talk about this being one of those matchups you look and say, hey, that could be an Eastern Conference final. That one could be too.
Right there as well, John Wolyniak, and that will be one of the tests we talked about for Red Bulls 2. Can they go on the road and continue this pretty run of form we've seen in 2019? The Charleston Battery match as well. We said they have a struggle on the road against Charlotte Independence. If they manage to get a victory, every single point down the stretch could be a fight for the lives for Charleston Battery. Do not sleep on that one.
And now Devin will stop wailing on his guitar. Well, okay, we gave it a little bit longer. Here we go, second half, moments away. Louisville City and Indy 11. Louisville looking to continue a 4-game win streak. They're just 4 points away from a home playoff position in the newly expanded Eastern Conference playoffs. It's no longer just 8 teams that get in, it's 10, but the bottom 4 have to begin with a preliminary round before the conference quarterfinals. Mitchell Osmond has come in. Oftentimes he'll play as a center back in a 3. And whether we see that in this game, in this second half, remains to be seen. As Hackshaw comes off, he took a knock. It appeared to the head right before the halftime whistle. So Osmond comes on, the former USL League II Defender of the Year. And Pat McMahon has picked up a knock, immediately going over the touchline.
Interesting, the rotation here by Martin Rennie, how he's allowed Mitch Osmond to go to the center back position. Of course, that's where he belongs, but Patty Barrett will go to left back. Thought maybe Ouimet would go over there, as they've utilized him in this 3-back system on the left-hand side, center back and right back, where he's currently sitting right now. Bit of a uncharted territory for Patty, though obviously more than capable of getting the job done.
Man and Pasher hug it out.
Best of friends again. It's going to be concern for Neville Hackshaw. That knock he took just before halftime.
McMahon. Ball cracked across, handled by Barrett. Pat McMahon. It was deflected en route to Metsoso. And Metsoso has put himself in the thick of it again. And a foul by Napo Metsoso. You know, Devin, Supporters Week just ended, and you and I have, over the years, garnered a pretty nice relationship with a lot of supporters around the league, different teams, through social media in particular, and through these broadcasts. But you know something? I've never had them dress me before. We're asking Martin Rennie about it. They got to choose this week whether he was business or business casual, I guess was the best way to put it. Louisville had the fans vote on their jerseys. It was interesting hearing Martin talk about the idea that the league can and should do more to reach out to as many fans as possible. Today, I would grade that as a simple but steady 8 out of 10.
You got to maybe give an 8.5 with the socks.
Those are class.
Also the double strap on the shoes. I respect that. Nice little shine. The boot man's going to have some extra room to get some work done at the end of this game with all the grass on him.
John Hackworth made the best dressed coaches list as well, we should note. Driven away by Jimenez. Well, everybody crashing atop one another, and it gives Indy 11 the chance to run out the other way. It's Pasher on the move. Farias played him that first ball. He's weaved his way up the right-hand side. And Farias is there, lifting up. Header is over the crossbar from Gabriel Rodriguez, who finally found himself in a dangerous position. The Brazilian, who they think can be excellent, back to goal and in the air.
Thought maybe there might have been a shout for him to just flick this on in behind him. Tyler Pasher, great job of tracking all the way back in. Similar to what you saw out of Illich. Not as deep, but really well done. And as Tyler Pasher comes back, better communication on the back line of Blue City FC. If you're Paco Craig or Sean Tosh and you recognize the forward, you have to pass him on and ask a bit more out of Speedy Williams and Akil Watts. That's the transitional movement, though. When you go so quickly, everybody's sort of frantic tracking back. Have to keep your head on a swivel and make sure you understand that you're still sitting where your responsibility lies.
Illich. Flag is up. It looked like he had perfectly separated the defense. Pasher was offside.
Sales of alcohol inside soccer field will end in the 70th minute. Please drink responsibly.
Lance McGarvey reminding the locals that alcohol sales end at the 70th minute mark. You and I were looking pregame at those Four Roses bourbon tops that they were wearing. Thought that those would look nice in our closets.
Yes, please. You can sign me up.
Pasher! Whoa, long distance rip. A laser beam right at Hubbard.
You could actually combine the two, and a bottle of Four Roses bourbon wrapped in the training jersey provides excellent support in a package that Lance could put in the mail and send it on down here. Just saying, Lance.
Oh, you want to talk about a guy who's purplicious to the core. The OG public address announcer for Louisville. Actually got a chance to sit down with Greg Rakestraw yesterday, the longtime Indy 11 television announcer, who's calling the game to the local audience in Indianapolis tonight. We want to talk about a guy who's had a distinguished career, many sports, from high school to pro to the very highest level of sport in this country. It's very cool. Slipped that by Connor. Farias running out of room on the cut back toward the penalty spot, seeking out Connor again. A tug at Rodriguez. And a little extra from Hopino.
Things heating up here in the second half. A couple challenges opening 6-7 minutes. Man right there, Gabriel Rodriguez has definitely been the brunt of it. One just before inside the 18, this time going all the way back outside. Openo coming back to help out. Well done on the pressure. Just a bit of frustration overloading the attacker. Felt like maybe he was grabbed a bit too much here. It was a real good look from Luke Spencer and Paddy Barrett's angle. To see some more movement out of Luke Spencer up top and see if Blue City can utilize him to the best of his abilities, play off him a bit more. That was definitely lacking in the first half, where anytime they did come into him, and you got those quick little check downs like you just saw come into view, and then balls down in. A bit of success with Antoine Hopino moving down into the channels in the final third. Didn't have anything to show for it, but some quality movements coming out of Luke Spencer.
Menez for Williams. And he turned it over, looking for the incisive pass. Look at the speed of Pasher. You've commented on it in public forum before, what Pasher brings to the table.
It's funny, too, because when you look at the matchup itself, you basically have two directions to go here when you're marking him. When he checks, you go with him. And if he peels off to come back around, you have to put a body on him. No one's doing that. Pat McMahon got himself in trouble where Pasher had just rotated to the outside. Should he have stepped? Probably. But if you're going to step, you have to win that ball. There is no room for error whatsoever. And Pasher made him pay. But even on the other opportunities where the near post early on, opening 5-10 minutes of the first half, when he checks back out, put your shoulder, drop it in as a defender, use that frame of yours to your advantage, and nobody's been able to do that so far. And you can start to see Tyler Pasher starting to get a real rhythm moving into the final third.
Even before the goal in the 43rd minute, his 10th of the year, we saw a few moments in that first half where he can break the game on his own. A little taekwondo kick by Craig. Hopino into Ouimet. And Hopino's probably on thin ice at this point with the referee. Just got a talking to on the other end.
Based upon the way things have gone, I wouldn't be surprised to see John Hackworth going to his bench in the next 10 or 15 minutes, possibly before. You've got George Davis, who's seen a resurgence as of late. Why not bring him on? They've also moved Abdou Jam to the outside midfield position. He was one of the ones that was the change in the starting 11, playing in the outside left last time out. Hopino had moved into the number 9 position, but the way that he's gone so far and his inability to really find better rhythm out of his play, combined with the defensive issues, definitely some fresh legs to be had.
Rodriguez handball. This is his second appearance, first start for the club. Had 11 minutes in his debut against Charlotte. A 3-1 win for Indy last time out, in which they trailed at the 15-minute mark in front of over 10,000 at Lucas Oil Stadium. Hopino. Deflected ball, Spencer knocked it down, but wide.
This looks like it took a deflection, went over the end line. Should have been pointing to a corner. Some arguments being made by the boys in the purple jerseys. Let's have another look. There is a deflection there. Now to Spencer. Does that come off the top of Mitch Onsman's head? That's what they're appealing for here as it goes over. Much better look. Quick little touch. Yes, it does. Definitely catches a deflection. Referee got this one wrong. First time you've ever heard that out of my mouth.
The referee
got it wrong.
Okay. Well, Louisville is going to go to their bench, try and turn the tide of this game. That's enough for Akil Watts. I think he's going to be happy he got his feet wet, but I think his overall performance, you'll find on tape, probably a bit lacking by his standard.
He's been doing well in training, and that just didn't necessarily funnel over onto the pitch itself. Masoso will most assuredly drop under Niall McCabe with George Davis moving onto the outside. That gives you fresh legs moving into the attacking third, and a bit more to stability in the middle, to be honest. Masoso can give you that pivot point. Now keep an eye here what he can do. John Hackworth, you can turn this into an inverted 3 now, where Niall McCabe will still be your main number 10 going forward. Speedy will sit deep, but Masoso can play the pivot point where he can play your 8. He can help out defensively, but still push forward a bit higher than Akil Watts was when the attack got going.
George Davis, the forward. He places number 8, Akil Watts. That substitution was in by MHS Global, above and beyond.
Speared back toward Pasher, kept alive here for Indy 11 in the defensive third. Iose, goodness gracious. He does not get enough credit in this league for being maybe the most technically gifted outside back we've got.
It was funny because I used to make the argument a bit more last year when they were playing in 4 because he was playing the outside back position.
Right.
For my money, I'll take Iose and then Josh Suggs in a close second all day long.
Yeah.
Those two are brilliant with the ball at their feet, set piece opportunities, and so consistent in their actions.
And there's a lot of different ways you can talk about an outside back. Neville Hackshaw and Kyle Smith, I think, are different kind of outside backs that they've either played currently for Indy in the case of Hackshaw or previously for Louisville. Oscar Jimenez, a different outside back, especially with his set piece service than you'd see from either of your aforementioned choices, Suggs or Iose.
Unfortunately for Martin Rennie, with Neville Hackshaw coming out of Mike Anhauser and the Charleston Battery. He was already accustomed to playing in the 3-back system, knew exactly what was going to be asked of him. Would be quite curious to see what it looked like if he was in 4 on a regular basis.
McCabe kept it alive. Everybody slipping. Matt Sosa helped to win it back. Williams a crack. Off the back of Patty Barrett. Corner coming, Louisville, as we near the hour mark. Speedy Williams out of Jamaica. Guy who's been asked to play in various positions in midfield, in particular with the loss of Paulo Del Piccolo to another long-term injury. Louisville's chief number 6. At times we've seen a double 6 in years past with Speedy and Paulo together. Corner whipped in, easy for Newton.
You take a look at the history of Lou City a bit further. James Sands, the loanee last year from NYCFC, was really the first time they ever played the out-and-out sitting deep number 6. That obviously came back into the picture this year when they moved Sean Tosh into that position, and they did it very well. One of the big strong suits of this club is their ability to rotate in and out of so many different formations, but still maintain quality composition going forward. This is the look we talked about with Masoso providing that extension in midfield.
He'll slow down. Gibson, his shadow. There's Tosh, playing as a center back on the day. Spencer, won by Barrett. Matt Soso persnickety in defense again. McCabe. Niall McCabe nearly slipped it through for Spencer. Does it stay alive? Came out through Osmond.
You're starting to approach an area of the match that when you look at things for Indy 11, and I was talking to you about this, they have an interesting history where they come out of the gate really strong and they finish really strong. In their respective halves, both the first and the second, there's this 15-minute window, minutes 15 to 30 and minutes 60 to 75, where defensively they start to shut down a little bit. Now they pick it up at the end of it. On the 17 goals they've given up this year, 12 of them have come in those windows, and you're hitting that 15-minute mark right now. Not surprising, the past 3 minutes, Lou City on the front foot.
And to your point, the 15-minute stretch where they score most this year, ball knocked on a line, it popped up nicely for Pasher, and Hubbard has to steer it out.
I have to wonder with Hubbard what's going on here. You can see him with his positioning just a bit off, tracking to his right-hand side, and almost starts to fall back prematurely.
Ball set up by Ioze. Pasher. McCabe. Metsoso. Craig. Off of Niall McCabe. Matt Watson is up and about for Indy 11. He'll find his way in sooner than later. But the time span, the 15-minute time span in which Indy 11 has scored the most goals this year, final 15 minutes, they've scored 31% of their goals 11 times. Devin and I doing our statistical deep diving this week. As Indy 11 looks for their 11th shutout of the season. But it'd be only their 3rd in 11 games on the road. Should they continue to keep Louisville on the schneid. Tosh not quite on the same wavelength. And Matt Watson comes in, a guy with a distinguished career with stops in Major League Soccer and in the championship, coming on for Gabriel Rodriguez. Well, maybe 1 or 2, Devin, decent looks in the second half, but with otherwise say probably close to invisible.
Only your second appearance. It's going to take time to create the same sort of chemistry that you've seen out of some of the other boys in the 11 jerseys so far this year. Said he came on as a substitute last match out. This time gets the nod, and to be honest, opening 30-35 minutes, yeah, he didn't touch the ball a lot, but there also wasn't a lot of distribution, and this is one of my more favorite moves that I've seen out of Martin Rennie. His ability to bring Matt Watson not just on the field on a regular basis, but as a supporting role, and more importantly, pushing him up a bit higher, where he is just so good on the ball going forward and can really help provide that extension from Illich to Connor to put Pasher up, and you'll just see him float around a little bit more now. He'll go side to side, drop down into the midfield, and more importantly, they're still trying to find a way to utilize the speed of Tyler Pasher. Opening 5-6 minutes, you really saw it, but again, from a statistical standpoint, this is that area where Indy 11 starts to slack off a bit.
Barrett's there. Abdou-Jam waiting to come on, and ball kicked out by Indy due to an injury behind the play will allow Jam in. Farias is the player down, the Brazilian from Sao Paulo. He once played the Toulon tournaments, one of the best youth tournaments in the world. The Brazilian under-20s, Allison, Rafinha, and Doria were all on that team. Doria's playing in League MX, and Devin, you've heard of Allison, I think.
It's kind of a big name in soccer.
Kind of a big deal. McMahon comes out, Jam comes on. One would imagine there's going to be some tactical adjustment that comes with this.
The way that they shift in general with their press, Blue City starts to move into kind of a three-back type system where you can overload with one outside back or the other. That's where McMahon got himself in a little bit of trouble. Jimenez was playing high, trying to step in, and when Illich dropped down, that quick little switch across the field. And you just wonder as to whether or not they're going to rotate a piece to the back line. We've seen that uncharacteristically, well, not necessarily use that word, we'll say unnecessarily at times, where you have to utilize Niall McCabe in a right back position. Don't necessarily see that right now. Immediately you see George Davis dropping deep. This does give you the look where you can overload things. If you wanted to drop Paco Craig into the middle, push Tosh out to the right, and Jimenez on the left, you could sit three. They don't necessarily have to drop into a four immediately, though.
Not beyond Farias. Goal kick here for Louisville. You can tune in to ESPN 3 September 11th. Electrifying edition of Wednesday Night Soccer. It's high flying, 16 consecutive game winner Phoenix Rising, heading to Las Vegas to meet the lights at Cashman Field. Action-packed Western Conference showdown. See it all September 11th during Wednesday Night Soccer on ESPN 3. Phoenix can actually clinch their spot in the playoffs this weekend.
Wrong. Surpassed the 2018 mark by FC Cincinnati.
Unbelievable.
For your money, how about this? Let's have a little fun. You take 2016 Red Bull,
yep,
record setters. You take 2018 FC Cincinnati, and let's just assume, for fun, that Phoenix continues this run of form. I'm not saying they're going to win every single game. Let's say they get through the regular season. Forget what any of those teams did in the postseason, because only one won a championship. Who's your favorite team to play? Who do you want?
Who would I want to go up against?
No, I'll say that in a different fashion. I phrased it inappropriately. Yeah. Who would you like to go see for your money? You have to pick two of them.
Oh, okay.
Fun matchups, right?
Phoenix Red Bull 2.
I'm probably with you on that one.
Yeah, that's nothing against Cincinnati.
No.
They have a ton of quality.
Yes.
Your Ledesmas and your Albadouis and really good players. GB, of course. But in all seriousness, I think the pace of that game would be dizzying.
For me, again, not a negative comment towards FC Cincinnati. I saw a lot more individualistic efforts out of that team last year than I did out of the 16 Red Bull or out of Phoenix Rising, what you've seen this year. There just seems to be a fluidity about them that has such more grace.
what people don't remember, or maybe it just doesn't come up often enough in the talk about greatest team in league history, because I've seen a lot of Phoenix fans quite loudly proclaim it's their mark, and statistically you can make that argument.
Right now.
Right now. Red Bulls too, while they never had this kind of streak in 2016, as Matsoso knocked down by Osmond, realistically, Devin, Aaron Long, Tyler Adams, Derek Etienne, Brandon Allen at his best. You're talking some real star power that year. As Osmond gets into it, a guy who made his name through the PDL ranks, now USL League 2.
Sometimes it's not even fair to make comparisons with a list like that. Have that kind of personnel, it'd almost be embarrassing if you didn't get a win out of it.
I think there are folks in Phoenix who would say, hey, what about us? We have Solomon Asante and, you know, really top-notch players at this level. But I mean, that 2016 team literally had 2 starters for the U.S. men's national team on it.
To cap that off, have that conversation with Rick Schantz in front of the fans. Here's what Rick Schantz is going to tell you. We're not done. We haven't done anything yet. We have a bigger picture here, and we're still waiting for the trophy on the mantle.
Creative idea here, lifted up by Williams. Ball comes loose. Newton was looking for a foul. Lofted again, header down, Toach save, follow up in! Abdou-Jam, Louisville level in the 70th. And the story for Indy remains unchanged. They conceded this vital moment in the game. The team so good defensively, seems to have one Achilles heel.
Keep an eye, watch number 4. Sean Tosh the entire time here. First ball, not the best. He's sitting right at the top of the 18. Excellent rotation all the way to the back post. He times this so perfectly. He's not going to get credit for this goal, but he'll be okay with it. Watch him go up, win this challenge on the back post. Evan Newton has to go to ground, and there's enough room for Abdou-Jam, who no one rotates to the back post on. Plenty of daylight for him to put this in the back of the net. Lou City prides themselves on set pieces. We saw it solid 20 and 30-minute sessions before last year's final. They replicate it to a T on this one.
Jam's first goal in 4.5 months since a 1-1 draw against the Rowdies in April. Guy who was just a little too old, an international spot that you might not want to give up. MLS teams saw him at the Combine, weren't impressed enough to give up that kind of value. The international spot, a guy you can't send on loan to your USL team. But Louisville saw a diamond there. He's dealt with a bit of an injury this year, but Abdou-Jam, when he's been healthy, has been a phenomenal piece. By the way, 2017 Louisville won the East. 2017 Monarchs won the West. Remarkable distance there at the top of the West. So not enough credit there. Twitter only allows 4 entries on the polls.
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't even been able to figure out how to get that far.
Farias too far for Watson. But even you go back years before, the great Orlando City teams of years past, your Dom Dwyers and Jamie Watsons and Anthony Poulos, now the coach in St. Louis, James O'Connor, was at Louisville City, now Orlando City is their manager, played on those teams. There are plenty of teams that could make that argument for the GOAT.
We can sprinkle in the Rochester Rhinos of 2015, who, you ever want to see an interesting record outside of their loss, go back and look at their fixtures from preseason all the way through. Who they played, the manner in which they beat teams. Of course, they were one of the few that not only had that beautiful run, but able to cap it off with a championship.
That's right. Pasher attacking again. Slid out by Craig. The stadium has come alive here in the final 20 minutes as Louisville equalizes. And these fans are looking for a 5th consecutive win.
This is really difficult for Paco Craig as well. Have to be so disciplined. Pasher wants to bring this back on his left, and as a defender, you want to push him to the byline and know that he's going to try and cut you back. So having the ability to keep your hips open and then turn the other direction, really difficult to do, even if it ends up for a corner for the opposition.
Corner, Indy 11. Just a little swipe there from Hubbard, didn't come close. Sayoze on the move. Time in La Liga. 33 years young. Still strikes a ball as well as any player in the league. He left this a bit short. Jam, and a real shot in the arm since coming off the bench 10 minutes ago.
Once again, history repeats itself for Indy 11. It comes in the form of Abdou Jam in the 70th minute. That was that window we talked about, 15 minutes, 60 to 75th, where he just lets their guard down a little bit. They do it once again. We said for both of these teams coming in, set piece marking was lacking in the last matchup. That serves true. First ball to the back post, second chance opportunity. You don't communicate, not enough marking.
Jam on the ground, kept with a little touch by Spencer toward Davis and out.
George Davis with his thumbs up. He actually hesitated right off this initial touch. He knew he had a chance. If he just takes that first step to his left side, he can hit it with immediate impact and go after the goalkeeper. Unfortunately, that slight hesitation allows the defense to just get back and retain its composure.
Devin, what is it that we're seeing right now, whether it be Jam or Hopino? It seems like the combination for Louisville in that front three better than at any point the opening 70 minutes.
Well, first and foremost, it's higher energy. You can see that it's not just methodically going through the action. There's an intent behind each and everything that they're putting on the field right now. The quick little touches, the step to the first and second ball, even on the goal, where when the first account doesn't work out, everybody immediately regroups themselves. You're not seeing the same thing from Indy 11. People are losing their marks. There's a good look at it. Second guessing by Tyler Gibson, the only player who started in every single match for Indy 11, where they have to get back on track here.
Dynamite ball over the top with a little too much pace. Ran right to Hubbard.
Starts from your goalkeeper. Go back to Evan Newton. You need to start barking at your back line. Mitch Osman, we met Patty Barrett. Have a conversation. Since Osman has come on, there has been an influx of performances within the back three. More spaces opening up. And notice, Masoso, since he has come into the middle, has allowed Speedy to play a bit more defensive. And that pivot point we talked about with the midfield three has become much more apparent, allowing some of these boys up top to get forward and have some more success.
Forward by Connor, a little tap to Watson. And Watson off on the run. Watson had to slide down. Pasher may have been in an offside position for the entirety of his run.
Good job by Speedy Williams to just hold serve in the middle of the field on this counter-attack. Pasher definitely in an offside position, but you'll get a really good look at this angle when this ball gets out in front. Speedy could have easily tracked to the near post. He doesn't. He recognizes that if he just sits and occupies the space in the middle, he knows there's enough space on the outside and pace by Oscar Jimenez to get back and go after the veteran Matt Watson. Great tackle.
It's a corner for Ioze. Dangerous ball. Hubbard, strong-willed that time. Gibson. Hubbard a second time with the punch. Pasher won the third ball. Excellent curling effort. Fell kindly for Osmond. Center back lofts it over. So goal kick for Louisville. Fans, you can continue to enjoy the USL on ESPN through the 2022 season. USL excited to announce a 3-year deal to remain with the worldwide leader in sports. Davis. That's off target, deflected along the way. ESPN Plus will be the home to all things USL. 19 games a year featured on the ESPN family of networks, 9 games on ESPN Deportes. You can continue to watch and support, follow your club, ESPN and ESPN Plus.
Look at all of the space open on the near post. You can just see tracking from the front one all the way to the top of the 6. There's about 12 yards right there. Just Openo standing in front of the goalkeeper. Everybody will crash it all at once.
Corner bobbled by Newton. Referee has allowed that play a couple of times. That's so-so against Gibson. Davis deflected right into the midst of Newton. Now Newton getting into it. A little extra now. Openo being pulled down to the ground by his neck, and the referee's going to have a lot of decisions to make now. Spencer pushing Ouimet away. Osmond getting in between the two of them. Now Newton going at Openo. Williams scores a goal for the sake of it that won't count. Or will it? The Louisville-Indianapolis Proximity Association football contest has added a new, fairly ugly chapter here.
Evan Newton's not happy with this challenge that comes in the middle of the field. Goalkeeper has no business right now. He gets up in his face, and there's a little push there. That should have been the end of it. Maybe enough out of Jean, but why are the arms from Ouimet wrapped all the way around Openo? He's going to get himself into trouble here, whether or not Evan Newton is carded, because he's the one who starts the aggressive movement here. Get away from him. Get your hands off of the player. You are doing your team a disservice, and you could get yourself in deep trouble here with the referee.
If you're Mark Ollerton, you don't want to start sending off everybody, but you do want to set a tone here for the final 10 minutes. In addition, he is talking to his AR. You're literally watching the radio waves bounce from one referee to his assistant.
Notice how they've slowed it down as well. He blew the whistle, backed off of it, tried to get everybody to settle down. He's going through the proper channels right now, deciding what direction they want to take it, not letting emotion override the situation, wants to make a calculated decision. The refereeing crew all on the same page, just wondering which page it's going to turn to.
Yellow to Newton, yellow to Jean. Now, I'm just going to say this. I don't know how you can't give a yellow to both Ouimet and Openo in addition. Let's go back to what occurred a moment ago. Newton got in a bit of a bumping match here coming out off this corner.
This is a foul. Evan Newton's got a point. The arm of Abdou Jam coming over. It's not the actual vertical threat itself. It's the left arm coming across the throat of Evan Newton. That's what he was upset about. Felt like he wasn't protected in the box. Then the goalkeeper decided to take matters into his own hands just outside of the 18. That started to boil over. And funny how the two guys who probably made the most out of everything didn't even end up in the book.
What do you think the folks in Louisville think about this?
Luke Spencer was in there as well. He took a little shove. We saw Ioze bridging international relations. And now a conversation that's going to go on to the sideline with John Hackworth, who I'm sure wants an explanation, but more importantly, he's trying to figure out how Carl Ouimet has the opportunity to bear hug someone to the ground and doesn't even get a talking to, let alone a card. He's got a point.
disciplinary committee is going to have a fun Labor Day weekend ahead. Apparently John Hackworth is somewhere between satisfied and willing to let it drop.
Probably go with the latter.
After a multi-minute brouhaha, Walker will come on and Drew Connor will come off. This is the final move for Indy.
Martin Rennie just looking for some fresh legs in the middle of the field. Drew Connor starting to labor a little bit. A guy who actually had on opportunity to sign just at the beginning of the season, had him in through preseason. He got an opportunity to go play overseas. So that was a lifelong dream. Went ahead and explored that option. Team ended up getting relegated. History had an opportunity to present itself in a different form. He's done well for them since coming on so far. Nice little brace last season and one of the more awkward goals you'll see in USL Championship.
Iose. Played through toward Watson. It is remarkable how much history, all seriousness intended here, exists between these two teams. You take the joke out of it, you realize that they've played in a knockout game in 3 of their now 9 meetings all time, including last year's playoff and 2 U.S. Open Cups before Indy 11 got to the league. Iose and Matsoso are having words now, and it's probably for the best that these teams aren't scheduled to play again this year until the inevitable playoff match you and I and many others are looking forward to.
Just keep a weather eye on the horizon. The way things are shaking up, they could easily meet in a second-round matchup.
Louisville in 7th, Indy in 4th. They are 4 points apart. 4th represents a home playoff game in the quarterfinal round of the conference championships. For Louisville, they play in the preliminary round. Davis. Off to the second time. Spencer. Spencer with the aggressive move inward. McCabe. Walker. Foul against Tosh. Referee will slow play up. Indy wanted to play with speed.
Speedy Williams and Iose just having a word with each other as well. Speedy not willing to back down from that challenge, and Iose has become quite vocal in the second half. Haven't necessarily seen him push forward as often as they'd like. Martin Rennie happy that they've only conceded the 1. Was in that window that we talked about, 15-minute span where they tend to let down, though to your point just before it, they really pick it up at the tail end of a match. One of their goals coming in the same time frame, 75th to 90-minute mark, and just wonder, with the addition of Kenny Walker coming on, will it be enough to push them back into that beautiful run of form we saw just at the tail end of second half?
Goodness, this has become an absolute bar brawl. And a foul by Ouimet. A yellow to Ouimet, who had that previous altercation that went without punishment.
It's a counter-attacking opportunity as well, so it's not just the move from before against that man Hopino. He repays the favor once again, pushing him to ground, tracking all the way back out. I did say to you, though, that if you're going to step as a defender in this 3-back system, you have to make sure that you're communicating right, and somebody stepped in behind. Well done by Lucas Farias on the right-hand side as his outside marking back moves forward. He tucked in behind, so that space was occupied.
Two significantly retooled teams. Both both within this year and over the offseason under second-year head coaches. They met in the playoffs a year ago. Only 115 miles on I-65. Right now, level terms in the 88th, going on the 89th minute. Indy pushing their line higher and higher. Say this about Indy, I don't think they go on the road feeling satisfied with a point at the reigning champion. Walker went down. Williams slicing through, just got under the feet of McCabe.
Especially not at this point in the season. You have to remember that for Indy 11, yeah, they've done really well recently and they're sitting in 4th position. Coming into this match, they had 12 games to play. That's basically right around 30% of their season. They're not teams that are sitting on 26, 27 games. They had played just 22 matches coming in. And you better believe in the back of Martin Rennie's mind, he's knowing that there's a lot of work to be done regardless of how good they look right now.
Dane Kelly, one of the league's all-time great scorers, did not play today, in part because of the very congested fixture list ahead. Ayoze goes in dangerously and is shown a yellow card.
Dane Kelly picked up a knock in that game against Charlotte Independence. Wasn't exactly sure as to whether or not he was going to be able to follow through. Speaking of which, how about Ayoze? Just cleaning out Shantosh. No love lost whatsoever between these two teams, with just moments to spare in this match. I have to figure they'll add a bit of cushion on here and maybe someone can steal it at the death.
Spencer wrestled down by Barrett. Throw, Indy. Farias, 6 added minutes of stoppage time, and you just hope all 22 players see their way to the end of it the way things are beginning to move. I wouldn't say there's bad blood between these teams historically. I wouldn't say it's negative. I think both sides are well perturbed by one another just based on the number of high-stakes games they've played. But tonight it has bubbled over. Uh-oh, Barrett left that free for Spencer. Jam hit it wrong. McCabe wanted that to his feet. He had Hopino running toward the post as well.
When you get a striker that hasn't scored in quite some time, they find a bit of luck on the game-tying goal. That can sometimes cloud their decision-making. Exactly what comes into play here. Abdou Jam, loads of resources at his disposal. Well done by Niall McCabe to rotate back inside as option number 1. Opino was the chance at the top of the stick, option number 2. Instead, just buries it down into the ground. That's a wasted opportunity.
Off the referee. And a foul there. Illich is frustrated, felt the referee could have given that back there. And allowed play to continue. Another foul. This Matt Watson, former captain for Phoenix Rising and the guy who played in Carolina previously for Martin Rennie.
I'm taking my time here if I'm Louisville. You can see 92nd minute, 4 more and change possibly. With all the big bodies you've had, you've seen they're going to do that. Paco Craig, Shantosh going to make their way up. Just allow the big boys to get up there. See if you can execute. You did the same way on the game-tying goal. Just put it up, look for a redirect back across the middle, and send someone in on the second chance.
This is the way Watson will send it back well across midfield. And Pasher showing that he still has good speed in him late in this one. This is the best defense statistically in the championship. Trying to hold on for a point on the road. Miss hit. Farias was there. Matsoso went down, and it looked like he was tripping himself up going through Matt Watson. Play on here, Jimenez. Spencer. Head on a swivel. McCabe. Won by Watson. Illich went down, free kick. It's got to be a yellow. It is. Well, McCabe waving back at the referee to acknowledge, and the referee wants a little more clarity.
Niall McCabe knows what he's doing. If he doesn't get any sort of challenge in on Illich right now, his former teammate, this ball could end up behind the back line. There's a good look at Pasher waiting for the ball about 10 yards away. McCabe able to get a tiny deflection in.
Obviously going the other way in the first half, a little bit wider. It was a very similar setup, that diagonal to set Illich up on that ball through for Pasher that led to the opening goal in the 43rd. Pasher in the 43rd, Jam in the 70th. Indy looking for a late winner on the road. Ayoze, header back across, flag is up. And now time running down for both sides. Keep their winning streaks alive. Indy 3 games, Louisville 4 games. Hubbard. That is a really nice run of play there that was broken up. Williams dives in at the feet of Gibson. Pasher trying to get by Tosh. The referee allows play to continue. Rennie, the head coach for Indy, and Pasher both beside themselves. Illich taken away by Matsoso. This one was good to the last drop. What's left here? Craig, Davis, Jimenez.
Wow, McCabe's in the middle, just walking. He's got to find a bit more energy down it. See if he can get involved. See if will his team to victory.
Matsoso, did he win a corner? He did. And this will likely be the last chance of the game. It was a poorly handled corner that led to Louisville's opening goal. Crowd on their feet, they recognize this moment. A late winner would keep this winning streak alive and extend it to 5 and pull within a point of Indy for 4th. Jimenez knocked away. John nearly got a boot to it. And the final whistle finally sounds, and the Louisville-Indianapolis Proximity Association contest is approximately level. 1 point apiece, 1 goal apiece. Wow.
Not surprising, played out almost exactly the way the first match did. Indy 11 had the better run of form opening 45. Lou City found an equalizer in the second. And both teams didn't necessarily have a massive amount of opportunities. Would like them to be a bit more clinical in the final third, but you could just see that lacking touch, not necessarily there. When you get into heated rivalries, it can cloud your judgment. That's what went on tonight. And for Lou City, they are struggling to hang on to that top 4. Indy 11 games in hand, still keeping that winning stretch going on.
And Pasher is out of gas. Most of these players will feel that way. Energy-filled 90 minutes. Louisville and Indy level at 1. Post-game coming up. Beautiful city of Louisville, Kentucky, the bourbon capital of the world. 1-1 Louisville and Indy 11. 115-mile trek back for the Brickyard Battalion and Indy 11 with a point in hand. With Devin Kerr, Mike Watts, here are the full-time highlights. And we begin in
opportunities that were given to him didn't necessarily matriculate into proper form. Exactly what goes on in that bit of poor judgment down the stretch. And then a bit of melee in the middle of the box, no big deal. Possession starts to swing the way of Lou City down the stretch. They were much better in the second half. Both teams went very direct. You could see Lou City starting to knock those long balls in. Tired legs from Indy 11. If I'm Martin Rennie, my concern is the numbers that we talked about. 13 of 18 goals now coming in that 15-minute window. That's a problem. And it's problematic going forward because you want to play high tempo. I respect that. If you want to bring it back down, I respect that as well. But you have to stay disciplined on the defensive side. That haunts them once again. For John Hackworth, he's just going to be a bit frustrated that the Akil Watts decision didn't necessarily pan out. Once Masoso came in there, you saw much better judgment by the players, some better leadership going forward. Didn't hurt that you had high energy and George Davis and Abdou Jam come in.
6 total yellow cards. 5 came in the last 10 minutes of this game as it got nasty down the stretch. Beautiful day in Kentucky. Beautiful day for this rivalry to continue its torrid run, capturing imaginations throughout the Midwest. For our producer, Abe Aponte, who built a wonderful tease today, Gage Tillotson, our director, Eric Falero, Anna Reyes, our entire Vista WorldLink team, Devin Kerr alongside Mike Watts saying, thanks for watching. Rough and tumble, 1-1 in the Louisville-Indianapolis Proximity Association football contest. Good night.
This copyrighted telecast of the United Soccer League Championship cannot be retransmitted, rebroadcast, or reproduced without the expressed written consent of the United Soccer League Championship.